Joining us now, House Minority Whip Steve Scalise and founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, Steve Moore, whose newsletter is called The Hotline. Steve, as the money guy, let me start with you. They haven't released who's going to pay for it, who's going to access it, how many will access it, and how it's going to be paid for. What do we know about the cost of this? I've heard $300 billion, but it seems like a floating number.
Well, Pete, I've got to tell you, I wrote a piece for FoxNews.com on this yesterday about how unfair it is and how fiscally irresponsible it is. I've never seen people so angry about something. You know, Biden, I think, proposed this because he thought it would be popular with some voters, but I think he's laid an egg here and politically. Now, the big problem with this bill is they don't know how much it's going to cost. They estimate about $300 billion. By the way, as Steve Scalise knows, just 2 weeks ago they passed a bill saying, "Oh, we're going to reduce the deficit," and now they pass a bill that is going to add another $300 billion. Add it all up, Pete, and if you look in the 18 months that Joe Biden has been in office, now $4 trillion of spending, debt, and money printing, and then they wonder, where did the inflation come from?
And they have the gall to tell us they're doing it to reduce inflation and reduce the deficit and the debt in the future, as if the numbers add up. Representative, is this the new reality? That an executive with the stroke of a pen through the administrative state can effectively wield the power of the purse? I always thought that was meant for the legislative branch. What can Republicans or a new majority do to rein this in?
Yeah, Pete, and it's not the new reality. It's a parallel universe. And, you know, many are questioning, including myself, whether this even legal to do. Joe Biden himself was speculating that it might be illegal about a year ago when he was talking about doing this, yet he did it anyway. They all know it's going to add to the deficit and the debt. I'm seeing numbers that maybe it's over $500 billion in deficit spending, in addition to what they did last week. Again, a $730 billion tax increase, plus 87,000 IRS agents to go after middle-class people. All of this is, by the way, going to increase inflation. Inflation is driven by all the mad trillions in spending you've already seen. Add another over $1 trillion in new deficit spending just in a week, and look at what that's going to do. And all to do what? To shift income. About 85% of Americans don't have any student loan debt, and they're going to be paying for about 15% of Americans who do. You know, is that a wealth transfer? And for what? Because they didn't get a good education? They should go ask for a rebate from the college, not from the hardworking taxpayers of America.
Steve Moore, talk to me about that wealth transfer, because there's a huge chunk of Americans who are about to pay for a smaller chunk of Americans for their debt that they accrued. Where's that money going? From whom to whom?
Yeah, great point. And, you know, we have half of the workers in America don't have a college degree. And so what this bill essentially would do is take $300 billion to people who have college degrees from people who don't have college degrees. And how in the world is that fair? You know, when I said that people were angry about this, Pete, what really makes people angry is that this isn't what America is about. You play by the rules and you get rewarded. If you're not paying your debts, you're a deadbeat. I mean, that's the term. I'm gonna say that. If you're not doing, you signed the loan, you said you were going to pay the money back, and you're not going to. One other point I want to make that I think is really important, Pete. I think this is the death of the student loan program if they do this. Because think about this, Pete. Who in the world ever is going to repay a student loan? I mean, the program, Steve Scalise, is dead if they do this, because the incentives are never to pay your loan and wait till they give you an amnesty and you don't have to pay the money back.
Representative, you can respond to that. Is it the death of student loans? But also, you're in the business of policy and politics. Democrats probably assumed this would be wildly popular. Young voters inclined to vote for them, yet the backlash has been massive.
Yeah, it's horrible policy and horrible politics. Only Joe Biden could do a double whammy there, where you're seeing the left even go after this just as the right's going after it. You know, Stephen Moore talked about some great points there, too. But when you think about why there's a student loan program, it's to help people go to college, graduate. You know, look, I went to LSU. I paid in part with student loans, and I paid every dime back. What about the millions of people who do pay their loans back? What are you telling them? And don't forget, they took over, they meaning the federal government, took over the student loan program under Obama to pay for Obamacare. And then you saw a mushrooming, by the way, in student loan debt because the federal government was encouraging more student loan debt because they needed to pay for this massive growth of a new program called Obamacare. Where's that going to be? That means they're just blowing a $500 billion hole now in Obamacare, too. And for what? Again, to take money from one group of people and give it to another. This is insanity. It's not legal. I think you're going to see challenges to it. But the fact that Biden is willing to do it tells you a lot about how misguided they are on inflation, on deficit, and what's driving all of these massive problems.
And, you know, another point is just a quick one, Pete.
I mean, go ahead real quick.
Just quick. Why aren't we holding the universities responsible for some of this debt? You know, they have $700 billion of endowments, $700 billion. And why aren't they using that money to lower tuition for families? And if a school has somebody went to the school and they don't pay the debt back, I think that the school should be responsible for that money, not the taxpayer.
Ooh, I like that.
That's right.
Actual accountability for the people who admitted the student. That makes a lot of sense. The Steves delivering on a Thursday night. Steve Moore, Congressman Steve Scalise, thank you so much.